Welcome back. On the phone with us, our old friend Medea Benjamin, the activist, co-founder of Code Pink and Global Exchange, author. Kingdom of the Unjust was the last of her books that I read with great interest. She has a brand new one out. It's called Inside Iran: The Real History and Politics of the Islamic Republic of Iran. And Medea, welcome back to the program.
Hey, Tom, nice to be on with you.
It's great having you with us.
Here in Congress, I hope it's a good sound, but I am in the halls of our great congressional offices where we try to get them to represent us.
Cool. So what's the state of our situation? I saw Lawrence Wilkerson came out a while back and said, the former aide in the Bush administration, said, don't trust Trump and Bolton to deliver peace in North Korea. This is just a show. What's going on with the situation? I want to ask you about North Korea, about Iran, and we could talk about Saudi Arabia, Israel, whatever's on your mind as well. But let's start with that. What do you think?
Well, I think I love Larry Wilkerson, but I don't agree with him on this one. I have spent quite a while in South Korea in the last couple of years and seen how their candlelight revolution that started at the end of 2016 and culminated in March 2017 by impeaching a corrupt government, something we should do, and putting in a new government of President Moon with a mandate not only to get rid of corruption, but also to make peace on the peninsula, and how he is really being pushed by the Korean people, and he has been doing a masterful job of it. And there are so many new and amazing things happening between the two Koreas that when I was there with a group of women called Women Cross the DMZ just last month, at the very time that Donald Trump announced that he would be canceling the summit, there was an immediate scramble to try to get it back on again, and you saw the mastery of President Moon meeting with the North Korean chairman and getting things back on track again. And so I think, as the Koreans told us there, the peace train has left the station, and Donald Trump should get on board, but that it's going with or without him. Right,
and it appears that that's the case, and I agree with you. And in fact, I've said the same on this program a number of times. My point, I guess, was that Trump should not be getting credit for this. This is President Moon Jae-in and the and the people of South Korea. We've talked on the show about how they elected him based on a peace platform. He's following through on that, and he's been in some ways, I guess, playing Trump as much as anything, it seems.
Well, that's right, and I think it's quite remarkable what the people of South Korea have done. In the case of the North, it's such an authoritarian regime that you can't have civil society groups that are pressuring the government. It's all coming from the top down. But in the case of the South, it's really this bottom-up movement that is just quite remarkable. And getting a chance to witness it not only around the peace things, but their opposition to U.S. military bases, opposition to U.S. weapons system like the THAAD anti-missile system that people didn't want in their area.
That's been going on for years, yeah.
Yeah. So they are quite active, and it's a tribute to their democracy that they have President Moon in place, that this is going forward, that they're going to be they're going to open up the program of family reunification again, that they're going to open up the Quezon economic zone so that there will be trade between the two. And, this has tremendous momentum because Moon has over 80% approval rating, and over 80% of the people want to see peace, want to see these peace talks move forward.
Do the people of South Korea see Donald Trump as the guy who could screw this up? Is that their nervousness, or do they see him as the guy who could help make it happen, or do they see him as inconsequential?
They are nervous about him. In fact, they said people told us that they fear Donald Trump more than they feared Kim Jong-un, because Kim Jong-un, they've been living with him or his family for a long time. They have a better understanding of how he works, but they really feel that Donald Trump is very erratic. They saw what he did in the Iran nuclear deal. They don't feel like they can trust him, which is all the more reason that there's this flurry of activity to have things move forward. You know, it was very interesting when Donald Trump canceled the war exercises, and it was portrayed as, you know, how could he do this without consulting with the South Koreans? Well, you know, the South Koreans that we know, and I think in the government, were delighted.
Yeah.
They wanted to see some reciprocity on behalf of the Trump administration. After all, on the part of the North, they had not only given U.S. prisoners, but they had stopped their testing, and they stopped the development of nuclear weapons, and they had already blown up one site. So they had done quite a lot to show their goodwill. It was certainly something that was expected from the Korean side.
Yeah, very interesting. After your just absolutely extraordinary book, Kingdom of the Unjust, Behind the U.S.-Saudi Connection, you have this new book out, Inside Iran, The Real History and Politics of the Islamic Republic of Iran. What's going on there right now?
Well, the Iran nuclear deal, which Trump withdrew from, but the other members, Britain, France, Germany, Russia, and China, are still part of, is hanging on by life support because the European companies are not being cushioned by their own government from the effects of U.S. sanctions, which not only say U.S. companies can't do business, but say that any companies around the world that have any kind of business in the United States cannot do business with Iran. And so the threat of these very expansive sanctions has been enough for European companies to already cancel deals. And so the Iranian government is put in a very difficult position. If it can't show any kind of economic boost from being part of this deal, then the hardliners who have already said, look, we told you never to negotiate with the West and certainly not with the United States, they can't be trusted. The hardliners are going to push for Iran to get out of the deal. And that is putting us in an even more dangerous collision course.
That would be the point at which either the U.S. or Israel might start bombing their nuclear facilities.
Well, that's right. And, you know, Israel has been gunning for the U.S. to do this, especially during the time that John Kerry was negotiating. He talks about how during the negotiations, the Israelis were saying, no, we want you to just go in and bomb their facilities. Of course, you know, let's remember, and your audience is a sophisticated one, that Netanyahu, who talks about the existential threat of Iran, it represents the country that has been lying for decades, since the 1960s, about its own nuclear weapon program, has over 200 nuclear weapons, refused to join the Non-Proliferation Treaty, which Iran did, and yet is the one that's accusing Iran of hiding elements of its nuclear program where there does not exist a nuclear weapon.
It's a rather staggering irony. Do you think that Trump actually wants basically what Trump has done is to cede power to the hardliners and to make Rouhani, the semi-reformist president, correct me if I'm getting names wrong here, to essentially disempower him. Do you think that Trump actually is doing this for that purpose, or is this just, a campaign slogan that tested well on the trail, that was really directed at hate for Obama, who was, was involved in the deal? That this was purely partisan and had nothing to do with what he's trying to do on the international stage, or is he trying to support the authoritarians? Excuse me.
Yeah, I would have thought that, Tom, had he not brought in Mike Pompeo and John Bolton, who are two notorious anti-Iran hawks.
Right.
And he has also strengthened the already very cozy relationship with both the Saudis and the Israelis. So you add all that together, plus, as you were saying, his desire to overturn anything that was the legacy of Obama, and it looks like their, quote, plan B is just chaos inside Iran, because there is certainly no entity that's strong enough waiting in the wings to take over were this regime to fall. And the MEK, the terrorist group that Bolton is so enamored of, has close to zero credibility inside Iran, because at the time of the very, very bloody Iran-Iraq war in the 1980s, this group sided with Iraq, with the enemy. And so there is no group that could take over. It would be total chaos. And some people speculate that that's what Israel would like, to see Iran broken up into pieces with different minority groups fighting each other, different ideological groups fighting each other. And that is the plan B.
Have Iran melt down the way Iraq and Afghanistan melted down after we decapitated their governments. That's amazing.
Right, exactly right, which is why so many people, both inside and Iranian Americans on the outside, are really worried. Many of them don't like their government, would like to see a different government in power, but they look around the region and they say U.S. involvement or the kind of chaos that results is not what we want. We want reform. And the economy, Tom, is in very, very dire straits. When it was announced that Trump was pulling out of the Iran nuclear deal, and even when Trump announced that Bolton was going to be the national security advisor, the Iranian currency, the rial, lost 20 to 30% of its value.
Oh my.
So things are very bad inside Iran, and there's a lot of complaining about the economy, but people do feel that that reform inside the present government right now is the best that they can hope for.
We're talking to Medea Benjamin. Medea, we have only 45 seconds left before I hit a hard break here. What's the situation in Yemen?
The situation in Yemen is that there is an intermediate cease on the attack of Hodeidah, while the international community is trying to stop the Saudis from taking that port, which would jeopardize the majority of humanitarian aid coming into the country and lead to many, many thousands of more deaths. So let's hope that can come through, and we can move towards a negotiating table and end that horrific war. Yeah.
It's horrific as, it doesn't even begin to describe. I mean, they're using cluster bombs over there, aren't they? Made in America?
Cluster bombs made in America, illegal by the international community, and the U.S. is helping not only to bomb, but to supply all the logistical support in the bombings that take out clinics and marketplaces and all kinds of residential neighborhoods.
Medea Benjamin, her new book is Inside Iran. Codepink.org is the website. You can tweet her at Medea Benjamin. Thank you, Medea.
Thanks so much, Tom. Great being on with you.
Thom Hartmann Program.